You prepare yourself with everything. You got an amazing script, a great image, but nobody is listening to you. Nobody stays watching your video, listening to your podcast, and you start wondering why. Why nobody wants to know about me? Maybe because there's a problem, or you can improve your audio, your sound. And today is exactly about this. We're gonna talk. So stay there, stay tuned, because I will be right back with my special guest to talk about this so important thing when we talk about content. I will be right back. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another episode of the Special Marketing Live Show. And today we have a really special episode because this is on Prime Days. We have this purple episode. I think if Prince was alive, after this day, he will come with a purple song about this live show, hopefully. So today we are talking about this so important thing when we talk about content marketing. It's not, I can't stress enough how important sound is when we talk about content marketing. Of course, if we are talking about blogging, sound is not that important at all. If we are talking about podcasting, sound it's the only thing. But if we talk about video, no matter if it's recorded video or live streaming, sound it's key. Okay, because I'm pretty sure that, for instance, some of my viewers they used to say to me, Marco, usually I put the video to play and then I start working. I do multitasking while I listen to your content. So if the audio it's not good, probably people won't stay listening. And today we will have this a show of the Heil with Michelle Levitt. She's in the basement waiting. I left there a cookie and a glass of water because I'm a kind and generous host. So let's bring Michelle to the studio. Hello, Michelle. How are
Hey,
you?
Marco.
How was the cookie?
It was delicious.
Yes, I'm
Do I have anything on my teeth?
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay, good.
they have auto clean included. So, Michelle, first of all, thank you so much for being here in my show in this very special show. I think it's the first time I do a episode of the special marketing live show during Prime Days. So this
Nice.
is a really special show, and also, and I need to make this announcement or statement. The fact that Heil Sound was a brand that was really kind with me, really nice. And again, I like to make this, I like to say this when I talk about my things on Amazon. There's a main thing about a given product. So the main feature, the main thing that he needs to do, and in this case, it has to sound pretty amazing. And then there we can have these extras that can be game changer or at least noticeable as well. But if a product doesn't do the most important feature he was supposed to do, I don't think there's no way that we can save save it. So thank you so
No.
much. Heil is now my favorite microphone brand and also my headphones.
Wow.
All you can see here it's my Heil Sound, even my T-shirt. So Michelle, thank you so much. I would, and by the way, for those of you watching us on Amazon, please feel free to follow. If you're not watching on Amazon, please just type, as you can see there, marketing.live, so you can join the conversation on Amazon. And then you can take a look about these amazing products by Heil Sound that we will gonna be talking about during the last 2 or 3 days. Who knows? Michelle, can you introduce yourself and maybe you can talk a little bit about Heil Sound as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I'm the marketing director for Heil Sound. I've been working for Heil Sound for about 18 years. Yes, I started as a baby. Um, so I've been using
It
microphones in a
was when you
variety.
started, you were in the legal age to work.
Yeah, believe it or not, I was after college. I started here. And I've been using microphones for over 25 years. I was a jazz musician, I've been a podcaster. I've pretty much used microphones in every way you can use microphones. And when I started out, the only thing I knew about microphones was what I didn't like. Like when someone would put a microphone in front of my saxophone and it just didn't sound true. And one of the things that I have learned in working for Heil Sound is sort of how to decode some of the language that we use that is very much like engineer speak to help people understand what those terms mean and how they apply in the real world. And I really love doing that because I sort of bumbled around until I figured these things out just through the course of doing my job. And there should be an easier way to do it. When I started doing this, we just talked to engineers because that was the only people that bought our microphones. And now almost everybody has a need for a good sounding microphone in their home or their office. There are very few jobs anymore out there where you're not expected to do things like this or Zoom meetings on the regular that nobody wants to hear, like all the background noise or your coworkers. I actually had a Zoom call this morning that somebody was just on their computer audio, and it was like, can you please mute that because I can hear everything and it's very distracting to the conversation that we're having. So, I think it's something that's really important. And here at Heil Sound, we strive to make really quality products that sound fantastic and are very forgiving in a lot of different environments. Most of these microphones were designed for live sound use. So even somebody that talks very loud into a microphone, it's not going to affect the sound. It also, is one of the hallmarks to us. We were a company that made live sound equipment. We were the sound company for the Grateful Dead and the Who when we started out doing this back in 1966. And Heil Sound's a second generation family owned company, which is very special and important to us. And everything we do has our name on it. And that means a lot to us that the products that we put out really represent who we are, not only as a company, but as a family, and sort of like the love and passion that we put into our products because we are those things. We are musicians, we are podcasters, and having products that we want to use is very important to us.
Absolutely, I think there's a kind of a balance we need to do because yes, we need to like when we use our own products, but the thing is also to, as we like to say in marketing, put the customer shoes, and then understand how they use, if they like what they need, whatever. But I think there's the kind of sweet spot that it's finding the right people so they can identify with our um, DNA. Because I think there's this thing as well at this moment when we talk about products, we can find a good amount of them, if not a huge amount of them, which are good products. Okay. And for instance, I've tried different brands of microphones, and sometimes for me, it's because I don't have that trained here. For me, it's, how can I say, a little bit difficult to tell differences between, for instance, two or three different microphones, high level microphones, of course, because it's
Mm-hmm.
unfair to try
Right.
a USB condenser microphone with, for instance, this one.
Right.
It's a little bit unfair, but because I think sometimes may be a little bit tempting with this global market, kind of try to grab everything that moves in the market or field and keep the identity. How do you struggle with that? Because I think it's and for instance, as you mentioned, there's you can this Zoom call this morning, and maybe some some little voices telling you, Michelle, maybe you should come with some microphones for those people who just do some Zoom calls 1 day or 2 days in the week.
Yeah.
But then you have these high hand microphones that are something important. How do you juggle all these temptations in the market?
It's very hard. And I won't lie, there was a period where I thought us putting out an inexpensive USB microphone would be a good idea. And then the more we thought about it and the more we discussed it, it just doesn't make sense for our brand because our brand stands for professional quality. And we can't put out a product that doesn't sound appropriate for professional uses because we are Heil Sound and we make microphones for professional audio, we make headphones for professional audio. Everything we do has an attention to detail that we just didn't want to sacrifice for any reason.
And that's really important. And this is something, and I think I can say this, even though this was a kind of a secret conversation we had yesterday preparing this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But one of the things I like about this microphone, and I think I can say about the broad range of Heil microphones, is how they can c- do this thing that for me it's I think it's not easy to do, because usually dynamic microphones, because the diaphragm, I think it's the right thing, it's not as sensitive as in the condenser microphone. So because of that you lose well, I can say lots of details in the voice.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case it's close to that detail in condenser microphones. And I think this is something that I really appreciate on Heil Sound, because some other brands they have a more black or dark sound, not black. And in this case, you have a more detailed sound, which is something that I like. Is not tempting, and I think this is kind of the struggle between Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and I think we can make the same analogy here. It's not tempting sometimes to give up of this brightness and try to find a more dark side of the sound on your products.
One of the funny things about microphones is if you find the right microphone for your voice, it's going to sound like you. This microphone in particular really sounds like me. If you meet me in person at a podcast show or something, you're going to
Okay, let me
recognize my
highlight it in the
voice.
carousel. This is
Yeah.
the PR37.
Yeah. And microphones have a frequency response. That means the range of audio they pick up from high frequencies to low frequencies. And all microphones for these purposes have a tailored frequency response. That means there'll be a little bit of a rise in like the 2 to 5K range. And that just means it's going to sound really nice and articulate on a human voice. And for me, this microphone sounds like me. For you, the PR40 sounds like you. And I think finding that right microphone for how you want to sound, if I use a PR40, I sound like that darker sound that you were discussing, but you have a lower voice than me, so it doesn't have that same effect on you. So it's kind of like trying shoes on. Just because you like how one looks does not mean it's going to fit your foot. And just because one fits and you like the way it looks doesn't mean it's appropriate, right? Wearing a high heel to run a marathon is not appropriate. Even if the shoe fits, even if it looks great, doesn't matter. It's just not the right thing for that application. And microphones are very much the same way.
Absolutely. And by the way, we have here Doctor. Hello, how are you, my friend? ¿Cómo estás? I think he speaks Spanish as well. And I think, if you don't mind, Michelle, we can give some tips to people. For instance, hopefully, We have at this moment 31 people watching us on Amazon. So I think we can give some tips about how to pick the right microphone for me. So let's
Yes.
start with those two big groups. I think they are the most common groups. For instance, we have condenser microphones, we have dynamic microphones. Can you give us like three reasons for us to pick one or the other?
Sure. So, condenser versus dynamic should be the first question you're asking. Whether or not it's USB or XLR really is not a qualifying term. That's just a connection type. So, you need to be looking for either a condenser or a dynamic microphone. Now, a condenser microphone is going to be very sensitive, it's going to have very detailed sound. What that also means is if you have loud air conditioning, if you have a road outside your window, if you have a window, if you have anything that is going to create any sort of external audio, you're going to have to combat it. You're going to have to completely soundproof that window. You're going to have to put dampening panels on the walls so the sound doesn't bounce back into your microphone, which is just a generally a good idea anyway to have. Like I have just velvet curtains over
Mm-hmm.
some sort of ugly old bookshelves in my office. And it does a nice job of dampening any sound that would bounce off that wall and back into my microphone. So, for either microphone, you need to pay attention to some sort of sound dampening if you have a lot of hard surfaces. Now, with a dynamic microphone, those are going to be a lot more forgiving to your various environments. They're not as detailed or sensitive, but that's sort of the selling feature of them. You can't hear like my mouth, the inside of my mouth. I've used very expensive, very nice condenser microphones in like professional recording studios to record voiceover work, and they sound incredible. But I distinctly remember the first time I stepped up to one of those microphones. When I opened my mouth, I think the first words out of my mouth to the audio engineer was, I think I can hear the hairs on my tongue. Like it's such a detailed sound that you can hear everything. And so knowing how to use a microphone like that, knowing how to edit a microphone like that, knowing how to control a microphone like that is very, very important. These are not microphones to use in like a home recording environment, regardless of their price point, right? So a lot of companies have come out with products that are very inexpensive condenser microphones. That doesn't mean it behaves any differently than a $4,000 condenser microphone. It's still a condenser. So if you're going to be recording in your house or your office like I am, like the sales manager's office is literally next door and he's on the phone all the time. So I can't afford to use something like that. We have a busy highway out here, and every once in a while we will shoot video here where I need to wear like a lav mic and it's a condenser. And if a loud car goes by or something like that, we have to stop and redo the video because you can hear it. So if you're recording in a less than ideal, non soundproofed room, you really need to be using a dynamic microphone. It's going to be a lot more forgiving. And, there are a lot of accessories too that you might want to think about getting to help your microphone sound as good as possible.
Absolutely. And USB against XLR.
Yeah, I've actually heard audio samples. There's another manufacturer that makes a microphone that you can plug in either, right? You can plug it in USB and you can plug it in XLR. And the difference between the two sounds is night and day. And that's because the USB cable has to compress the audio so much that the XLR cable doesn't do. The XLR cable tries to give you the full true sound of the microphone and whatever is being mic'd, whether that's a guitar cabinet or a person speaking. It's going to give you the full frequency response and everything that the microphone captured. And the USB audio, for the most part, does not do that, unfortunately. Boy, don't I wish it did. It would be so much easier, right?
Yes, indeed. Because, for instance, I have a kind of a big mixer here, and there's another thing that we when we because one of the things when we buy a an XLR microphone is that we need to buy the cable, we need to buy an audio interface or a mixer, and this in the budget side, it's usually a kind of a deal breaker or something because sometimes people, okay, I'm just gonna buy this $100 microphone USB and I'm really good to go, and maybe they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Those people tend to call us and they go, so my microphone is picking up my dishwasher. And it's like, well, you can't use that kind of microphone. There's like, I can't sell you a boom arm to fix that problem. Like that's not going to do it. The microphone's the problem. So you just have to be aware of, you know, your environment and your particular needs and your voice.
And let's talk about that. uh, because usually in the product specific in product specifications we have these graphs
Mm-hmm.
saying the frequency. I don't understand almost anything about it, but I'm here to pick your brains. Shame
Yeah,
on me.
yeah. No, go ahead.
So having in mind, and I think we should know our own voice so we can at least look at those specifications and understand if, because sometimes we see people with amazing voices and the microphone in front of them and it sounds perfect, but sometimes the problem is that they have an amazing voice, the problem of course. So
Right.
what do you recommend for people to kind of take a look of those specifications and understand, so this microphone is suitable or not to my voice?
Right. So, one of the things you want to look for, and I kind of mentioned it briefly before, is that 2 to 5 kilohertz range. And I wish I would have had the graph up so you could see it. But you want there to be a little bit of a rise in the response there, just through 2 to 5K. If it's in any other place, like if it's higher than that, it'll make it sound nasally. And when you hear microphones that sound nasally, that's usually the reason why. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Like you go to your local like event, whatever it is, you know, at your church or Knights of Columbus or whatever, and they have, you know, some inexpensive microphone that's probably been in a drawer somewhere for 20 years. And they use it and you're like, I can't even understand what they're saying because of that. That's generally what is going on. And so a microphone like the microphone you're using, the frequency response of that microphone is 28 hertz to 18 kilohertz. And that's a very wide frequency response. And it's also a very low frequency response. So I'm going to pull up the PR30 specs really quick too, because that's going to be closer to this product.
If you want to do screen share, feel free to do that because
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can bring the hello Corinder.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if it's going to let me. Oh, let's see.
Hopefully it will.
I know, right?
And for those of you watching, please let us know if you have any questions. Don't be shy.
Yeah. I love questions. I know this stuff can be very intimidating, but I don't want it to be ever. Oh yeah, that's totally frozen. Okay. We're going to scrap that. So
Okay.
anyway, so the 18 kilohertz high range on the PR30 or a microphone like this, it only goes down to 40 hertz, whereas the PR40 went down to 48 hertz. So it just has a little broader and a little more low end. And so if you have a bassier voice, you're looking for a
Mhm.
little more low end. And if you're a woman and don't want to sound as bassy, you're looking for a little less low end. So just be aware of those sort of parameters. The 18 kilohertz on the high side is probably fairly standard. I think some of our microphones go up to 16. Um, but that's not, unless you're like a soprano singer, it's not going to be something that, you know, you really need to worry about. And if you are, you know, good for you. Um, so just looking at those sort of numbers, finding that sort of general range and making sure that the the peak in that is not really in the wrong place. And the other thing is you just really have to try them. And I know that's not the greatest
Easy.
answer, but
Yes.
the difference between, my microphone that I'm using and yours on my voice is like night and day. And I actually have a PR40 set up here that I can show you guys what it sounds like when you have sort of the wrong frequency response on your voice and how it changes how you sound. Do you want to do
Absolutely.
that? Do we want to show
Okay,
them?
let's do this. Let's do
Okay.
this.
I'm going to mute for a second and switch mics.
Okay, perfect. Meanwhile, I can dance. Just
I like the dancing. That's good.
yeah.
So this just doesn't quite have the same mid-range presence on my voice as the other microphone does. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of strange. It doesn't sound bad necessarily. To me, it just sounds a little off because it doesn't sound how I sound naturally. That being said, some people don't want to sound like they sound naturally. Let's be
Yes,
honest.
that's true.
Some people don't like their voice, and some people want something that will make them sound a little more natural. I know
hmm
Pat Flynn has told me that his PR40 makes him sound better than he sounds in real life. He thinks he has a nasally voice, which he doesn't. But he likes the warmth that this microphone provides for him. And so, everybody's a little bit different, to each their own on their preferences for how they sound. Um, yeah.
Absolutely, really nice. And let me share another secret. I was not. Let me shame on me again. I was not brand aware about Heil Sound. Then I saw. Let me share the story. I saw our friends from Dealcasters talking about an amazing microphone like this one, and I
Right
said,
there.
"Oh my god, that microphone! It's amazing, awesome." And then I made my homework and I found the PR40 and I thought, this microphone sounds familiar to me and looks familiar to me. And then I start, and this is kind of when you buy a new car and you think, oh, I never saw anyone else with this car. And then suddenly they, oh, one, another, and another. It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same. So this is actually the PR40. It's a standard microphone when we talk about podcasting, and this could throw the conversation to something that for me it's interesting because suddenly we move from a world where when you need a microphone, a good microphone, if you are a singer or if you are in the music world or if you are a radio speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly we see this boom of content creators, podcasters, live streamers, YouTubers. How this changed the industry.
Yeah. When we came out with these microphones, it was, let's see, these were introduced into our product line in the early 2000s, and that was when I started working for the company as well. And up until that point, there had not been a lot of innovation in the microphone industry in quite some time. And we started making large diaphragm microphones. And what that means is the element inside this is very big. That's why our microphones are bigger in their footprint, and also why we can't put them in little, small, tiny things, is because the reason they sound so good is because they have these great big elements in them. And a dynamic microphone element is essentially a speaker in reverse. So if you've taken the cover off your speaker cabinet and you see that cone inside, so
Mm-hmm.
a speaker takes a signal and converts it into audio waves that you can hear, and a microphone takes the audio waves and converts them into a signal. So it's the same thing. And we started playing with big diaphragms in our microphones, and They were very floppy and they caused a lot of handling noise initially because one of the reasons some microphones sort of roll off the low end of their products is because it creates handling noise in the product. So when you touch the microphone, you can hear it.
Yes.
So one of the ways to combat for that is to just roll that low end off, and then you lose the handling noise. It also means you lose the low end range of what the microphone captures. And so we started working on these microphones, and everything we do, we sort of iterate and create new versions. And this microphone is sort of the culmination. I call it my Frankenstein microphone, where we took the concepts of the PR22 with this like sorbethane rubber internal shock mounting system, and we took the element of the PR35, which was our best-selling vocal microphone, and we sort of Frankensteined it together and created this new microphone that had like the durability and the less handling noise of the 37, and then the, beautiful warm rich frequency response of the 35. And so you get this behemoth of a handheld workhorse microphone. And this thing's phenomenal for traveling with. If you are somebody that takes your podcast on the road, say you record when you're at conferences, you find yourself in hotel rooms having to record, or in the lobby of the hotel, even worse. This is a great option for that because it's not picking up that audio. I just accidentally clapped my hands down here. Here, I'll put my hands up so you can see me snapping. It just doesn't show up in the audio. And that's one of the key features of all of our products is having that sort of directed audio, full range, detailed sound, but all the forgiving nature of, a dynamic microphone.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've been mentioning, of course, on the PR37 and also the PR22, is
Mm-hmm.
I think they are very flexible solutions. I mean, for instance, you
Yes.
can use them as a podcasting or a content creation microphone, but also they are really portable, so you can use them. I think they are good for stage as well,
Absolutely.
and also for making some interviews and these kind of things, because yes, sometimes we have the budget to have a dedicated microphone just for podcasting and another one for interviews and another one for whatever we want, but sometimes we need a kind of a blended solution
Mm-hmm.
which can be a one fits all. So I think the for a lower budget, the PR22, it's really cute, the microphone. It's a really cute microphone. It's a really good solution. And for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if you are starting your content creation journey, this could be a really nice solution. And then if you
Yeah.
want to go, as we like to say, to the next level, the
Mm-hmm.
PR37, it's a really good solution as well. And it's a super cardioid, which
Mm-hmm.
throw us to another thing in this microphone world, which is the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell us the differences between the three uh, patterns, and for instance, which situation it's better to use this kind or the other kind?
Mm-hmm. So there's actually a lot more than three polar patterns,
Okay, we
but
have the main three.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, we have.
So,
Yes, sorry.
I talked about
At
my
least
lav.
five.
Yeah. I
At least
talked
five.
about my lav mic that I wear sometimes. It's an omnidirectional mic, so it picks up
Yes.
audio from all over the place. I've seen a lot of people try to record podcasts with these. So they have a host and a co-host, and they're like, "I'm just gonna crank crank it up and record it all," and then you just have one audio track. And if your co-host sneezes while you're talking,
There you
it's
go.
in there. There's no getting it out. There's no getting it out. So this is not a great application for this. A good application for an omnidirectional mic is, sort of the man in the field recording. If you've seen, broadcasters out, the newsy people standing there like, here, speaking to the microphone, total stranger that I just accosted on the street. That's a good use for an omnidirectional mic because it has a big polar pattern that picks up a lot. A cardioid or a supercardioid, they're very, very similar. A supercardioid has a little bitty spike coming out of the back of it, but basically it just picks up audio in the front. And I'll do a quick demonstration of what this sounds like. So your polar pattern can be affected by your gain. The more gain, the more area it's going to pick up. But as I move away from my microphone, my audio is going to start to drop off a little bit. And as I move closer, it's going to pick up. So you can hear I've sort of set my gain in a way that my polar pattern really only picks up right around the microphone. And then as I move to the side, it's going to start to drop off. And
Hmm.
as I move back, my audio comes back. And so you want to pay attention to the polar pattern, especially if you are recording in your home or your office, and making sure that you have something that can sort of negate any sounds that you don't want to be using. And polar pattern, again, is one of those things that, like, depending on application, you might need one or another. But for the most part, for podcasters and streamers, you're going to be looking for something like this. Now, warning, there are things called a bidirectional polar pattern where it picks up one side and the other. Don't use that. Okay, because I know every podcaster is like, oh, I can just buy one microphone, stick it in the middle of the table,
There
and
you go.
boop. Not a good idea at all. Because again, same problem as the omnidirectional mic. It's you're gonna have one channel for your audio, and you need to record each guest and co-host in separate channels so you can mute the person that is being noisy or obnoxious when the other person is talking, because it happens. Um, or something happens in their environment that you can't control for. So that's another thing. So you always want to have one microphone per person, and you want to make sure you have a polar pattern that's appropriate for your application.
Absolutely. Sometimes the easy way, it's not the smart way.
No, often it's not. It's
Yes.
especially in audio engineering.
And we can talk about how can I say, two extra things. Let me say it like this, that are important, and you can see them here, which is the boom arm. And
Mm-hmm.
you can share, because I'm sure you know about the going ship, the cost of going ship when we talk about a boom arm, and also because sometimes people just think that using the shock mount, it's to look fancy, to look like have that radio-ish look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
can you?
yeah,
Yes, yes,
a shock mount is a very practical thing. So if you're somebody that maybe doesn't have the world's best mic technique, or you shuffle papers a lot, or you type on your computer while you're working, this all these little rubber bands on here, they absorb the sound waves, and they reduce those sound waves from getting into your audio. Because remember, we talked about that low end of the frequency response is what transmits external noise into your microphone. So you want to adjust for those in some way. And the shock mount will very much do that. Also, let's be honest, it makes you look like a professional broadcaster.
yes,
I know some people probably just buy them for that reason alone, is like,
yes,
it just looks cool. It looks right. Like, I'm sure people look at me with my handheld mic here and they're like, why do you use that microphone? I use this microphone
yes.
because it sounds the best for me. If it were
I'm
in a
not
different,
taking you serious. You're
right.
using a handheld microphone.
Yeah,
Go away.
no, exactly. It's, you know what? It doesn't need to look a certain way. It just needs to function for you. And
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
somebody that has used microphones for a very long time. So I tend to not have as many bad habits as new microphone users. And trust me, once you practice on your microphone, you will eliminate your bad habits as well. Like, there was definitely a time period when I first started podcasting where I was not used to speaking into microphones because I was a
Hmm.
musician. And one of the things I had to adjust and learn was how to speak into a microphone without getting those plosives. So, windscreens are a good choice for that, to dampen those plosives into your microphone. But the other thing is just really getting in there and practicing. Another great way to make your live stream or your video podcast look super professional is to have a boom arm that has channel covers. So the mic cable just threads right through this, and then you just pop these back on. So I've seen this trend lately of boom arms that look very fancy, and they're like, guess what? Cable included. Do you know why the cable's included, guys? Because it's hardwired in. And if your
Yes.
cable breaks,
Aha,
your
Houston, we have
whole
a
boom
problem.
arm is gonna have a problem. So when I first started doing this, a lot of broadcast stations had those style boom arms, but do you know what broadcast stations also have? Audio engineers that know how to solder. So unless
Uh-huh.
you're interested in learning how to resolder microphone cables, I do not recommend getting one of those because when people call and say, my microphone is not passing audio, the very first question we ask them is, have you switched out your mic cable? Because 9 times out of 10, the problem is the mic cable. So,
Okay.
making sure that you can swap that cable out very quickly and easily is a great idea because, let's face it, if you're doing this sort of stuff from home, you might have a dog that chews it up because the 10th reason why people send in their products because they're not working is because their pet or their kid got a hold of it and it's been destroyed. And a lot of people will just straight up confess to us like, dog got a hold of it, do what you can to help me out. So
Absolutely.
make sure you have something that you can just swap that mic cable out if something happens to it very quickly. Sometimes you only realize 5-10 minutes before your live stream that you've got a problem with your equipment. So if you can switch that stuff out quickly and easily, that's definitely the best way to go.
Absolutely. And I like to put the kind of the test to see if a boom arm is good or not is the three S's test.
Okay.
First S stands for silent because and sometimes we tend to go to those $15 boom arms, but the thing is when you move it with the springs outside you see
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and it just goes and goes and goes.
yeah. And also the second S, this is not a particular, it's just a random order. It's being solid because sometimes we see people starting a live show with a microphone in this position and suddenly and slowly and then they
Yeah.
need to go down
Yeah.
or they need to put it up and then the first S comes to the scene.
Yes. Yes. And some people will complain about our boom arm like it's too stiff. It's like it's supposed to be. So you put it where you want it and it stays.
Yes, but at the same time, this one it's really smooth because it's easy. You don't need to hit. Because I have another one here. Okay, this one,
Mhm.
which is from another brand, and if I need to move it, to put it up or down or I need to eat a good steak. In
Yeah,
this
it's
case,
not
no,
that
I
stiff.
just there you go up, but it stays there
Mhm.
and this is something that uh, I really like. And also this black, it's really nice, and it moves 360 degrees. It's tall as well because some they are a little
Yeah.
bit short. And for instance, if you have a big desk and you have a small boom arm, then you it kind of stays in the middle of the street,
Mhm.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this case, I think I'm really happy. I was willing to connect the camera so I can give an angle about it. Okay, maybe I can use this one. Let me check if it's working
Yeah,
because
I use these for all sorts of things.
okay, there you go. This one it's
When I had my studio set up at home for the pandemic, I used these clamped to my desk to hold up my lights. I didn't have a lot of
nice.
floor space, and so you can just use this the same way, and it's nice because it's very easy to adjust. You can adjust it from
Yes,
sitting
absolutely.
down.
And you
Yeah,
can see it here.
yeah.
Look how awesome this boom arm is. Okay, so I'm really happy that I don't know if you know her, Michelle Levitt from Heil Sound sent it to me. She was really kind. And by the way, we have here as well Pedro Carames, our LinkedIn man here in Portugal. Muito obrigado, Pedro. He's also an Amazon influencer, but I don't think, at least as for now, he's not going live. He's shy.
Mm,
But actually, I think these three elements, they are really important because, as you mentioned, for instance, we are doing our things, and for accidentally we knock at the desk and there's
yeah.
or when we are typing, and this is something that sometimes, if we don't educate ourselves to avoid this, we start typing or clicking the mouse and oops.
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so this is because the other thing is, and I see people doing mostly when they use condenser microphones and those, and that's cute, that's nice, that when they have that mute button, it's
Hmm.
nice. But the problem with that is often we do that Charlie Chaplin thing, which is we mute the microphone and suddenly we start talking blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a little bit even, I don't know what which is more awkward, uh, sound typing in the audio, or
Yeah.
doing the Charlie Chaplin thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
I don't know. So let's keep moving, and I think it's important as well to kind of comment about this new approach to marketing, which is not that new, but it's, I think it's getting track, and about using, for instance, influencers. And I think this is what brought us to this moment,
Yeah.
and how Heil Sound is embracing this uh, approach as well, because I think it's really important. And we had this conversation yesterday, because I think this is something that most of the brands did for lots of years. I think this could be kind of something from the old school marketing, because also this was because this was motivated by the media we had some years ago, because mostly we had TV, we had radio, we had newspapers, and
Hmm.
this, what we saw there, celebrities. So by those
Yeah.
times when we want people to kind of uh, talk about our products, we need to go to those celebrities. Right now the thing is moved, has moved. And also, and I think this is important as well, and we talked about this yesterday, and I talk about this lots of times with other fellow influencers, because sometimes the imposter syndrome comes to my ear and
Oh.
says, look, why are you talking about microphones, camera, and these sort of things? You're a marketing guy. Why you're talking about this? And I say, look, because as a marketing guy, I need to make my choices. I need to choose to pick the right gear for me to start creating content 7 years ago. And one of the problems I had back to those days and even today is that most of the conversation I heard from those guys who know a lot about this, yes, they know a lot about audio and this, is I don't understand what they are saying.
Mm.
So this will lead us to this thing, because yes, brands, they tend to go after these more technical people, and we can talk about audio, but we can talk about sports guys as well, and these kind of things, people that we recognize their value, their knowledge about the thing. But in the opposite side, there's this thing as well. Maybe because this person, which is a high hand user, is using this, maybe this is not for me because I'm a beginner, I'm a newbie.
Yeah.
How do
Y-
you have embraced this, and how do you, again, do you juggle with this, all these different profiles of influencers and these profiles of customers as well?
You know, I love the influencers. I think they bring a certain everyman's language to microphones. Sometimes it's hard for me because I've been talking about microphones in a technical way for so long, to bring it back down to a level where somebody who's just getting started, that it's not intimidating. And, like somebody like Chris at Dealcasters, he's from that audio background, so he talks more in a way that I do about microphones. But having people that are using these things on a daily basis, and they can say in their own words, from their own opinions, what makes it great, right? Like, I had another guy who was a live streamer who was like, I don't have to turn my air conditioner off anymore in my live studio. And I was like, you were turning your air conditioner off? He was like, yeah, and I live in Arizona. And I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Find the right, get the right microphone. So, having people talk about things like that, because I don't live in Arizona and I use a dynamic microphone. So the idea of having to turn my air conditioner off or my heater off was never something that I would have thought to say about our products, And so bringing just real world experiences from home studios or office studios, that those people aren't coming from an audio background. When we started a podcast for Heil Sound for our 50th anniversary, and I decided to do a podcast for Heil Sound because I wanted Bob Heil to be able to tell his stories through his microphones. And it was an incredible experience. And we recorded all this audio, and it sounded so amazing because we were professionals in the audio industry. And the host for the show was a professional broadcaster, and he also does voiceover work, and it all sounded amazing. And then we had all this audio, and I was like, I don't know a thing about actual podcasting. I don't know what an RSS feed is. And so I had that learning curve in another way. And I understand that, like, that's the easier part. Like, that is the easier part. You just, put it on these platforms, and a lot of them just, check your RSS feed for you and distribute your content. And it makes it so much easier. And for most people, the biggest hurdle to doing, a podcast or a video show is the technical components, like the cameras and the lights and the microphones and all the accessories that hold all these things, and the headphones that you wear. Do you see them? Do you not see them? Like, what's the aesthetic of the show? And there's so much to it. And I love that influencers can each each person has their own way of doing it, and each person has their own reasons of why they choose a particular product, and everybody brings a little something to the table. And it's almost, to me, a cross between, like, artist endorsers, who that idea has been around, for a very long time in the music industry. Tool uses our microphones, or Slayer uses our microphones. And so you have these big names that give you examples of people that depend on your products in a very real world way. But these people are at a level that you're not at, and you're not going to be at. And then you sort of, on the flip side, the old school model of just like the word of mouth, where you're just asking your friend, like, hey, where did you go for dinner last night? And they tell you, and then you try it. It's sort of a hybrid between these two ideas, where you have somebody that's more trusted and more at your level, where you can say, what microphone do you use and why? And it's not going to be from that level of, this is not something I can attain. What you're doing and the streaming that you do, and I know you talk about this a lot, this is a thing that you can do. Like, you're talking about
Yes.
your other influencer friends that aren't doing it yet. And it's like, it's not that scary. Just get on there, rip the band aid off. They probably already have all the setup to do this stuff. They just need to hit go. And
Yes.
I think having people to encourage others to try new things, to try new platforms, to try new ways of creating content, um, is always great. And so for that reason, I love to work with influencers. I love the realness that they bring to talking about our products in a way that I struggle to do now. Like, once you've been doing a certain thing for so long,
Yes.
I mean, everybody has this in their own way, right? Whatever it is, the thing that you do
Absolutely
on a
yes.
daily basis, It's very hard to pull yourself out of that and remember what it was like. Although I can very clearly remember using a microphone for the first time and being like, that does not sound good. so so I do have that memory still embedded in my head. Um, but yeah, yeah, I love the realness that influencers bring.
Absolutely. It's funny what you mentioned, because back in the almost 1 year ago, a friend of mine, um, Ross Brand, maybe you know him,
I do
because
know
he's
Ross.
okay. So he asked me to write a chapter to his book. His book, yes, yes. Oh my god. And then I came with, it was the people like me approach. And what is the people like me approach? Is when you put in the mixer influencer marketing, word of mouth, and live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came with this, and I think it's a nice idea. Basically, is what you were talking about. So I think somehow I was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, yes, there's this thing, because, for instance, sometimes, and I like to share this. Sometimes, for instance, when I was doing the unboxings of your products, one of the things I highlighted was the how your packages, they are simple. Okay, you don't
Mm-hmm.
bring a huge box with empty, with lots of stuff that you're gonna throw to the garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was highlighting this. Okay, because I think for me this is important, and I'm pretty sure that people are starting and increasing this awareness about being friendly, environmental friendly. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I was highlighting this. So I
Yeah.
think, for instance, one of the things I like to do is, when some brands, they send me their products to try, is putting myself in this kind of fragile situation, that it's the first time I'm touching this, or I'm not even a specialist on this, but let me see in a beginner perspective how this works. Because
Mm-hmm.
I believe that lots of people go to Amazon to buy, for instance, a microphone like this, and they may get scared because, oh, I see so many important people using this microphone. I don't know. Probably I don't know how to use it. Yes, you will know, because it's plug and play, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. All our products are made to really sound great out of the box. You don't need to do a lot of EQing. As a matter of fact, I turned off all the EQ presets on the interface that I use. Um, we really want to give people a product that when they get it home, there's no surprises. You don't need extra preamps. You don't need a lot of extra gear. You can use the most basic audio interface, and the microphone is going to sound great. There's no smoke and mirrors here. We're not, there's no like, pull the curtain back Wizard of Oz moment where you're like, oh, that microphone really doesn't sound like that unless I do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to cost me all this extra money to make it sound that
Yep.
way. Because I've seen that. I've seen that at, you know, live podcasting shows where my competitors have literally things hidden under the table to make their products sound better. And I put my mixer right out front and show people that I have no EQ on any of the products that they're trying out. And, giving people a product that they can trust and is reliable is very important to us.
Absolutely. And now it's time for me to bring something to the screen, because this was the main reason why we are talking here today. So let me bring this to the screen, because this microphone, it's unforgettable. This microphone reminds me about those old days of
Yeah.
black and white TV with Nat
Mm-hmm.
King Cole singing and these kind of
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
Please share the story about this amazing defeating
Yeah.
microphone.
So it's funny that you have that reaction to it because the first time I saw that microphone, I was like, this is just a gimmick. I'm not a fan. And then I saw it on a stage. And it's really something on a stage when the microphone's glowing, and it glows through phantom power.
Yes.
So it's not a condenser microphone. It is a dynamic like the rest of our microphones, but it does use phantom power to make its LEDs glow. And it's modeled after a Turner microphone, which was a vintage microphone that was made a very long time ago. And it does have that cool, like, 50s retro vibe. And we just shot some new videos and pictures for our Amazon listings. And it was my favorite part of the day. We spent a whole day doing shoots, and that microphone just kind of made my day. Like, it was just so beautiful and dramatic, and it was featured in the Hunger Games movie. And
Hmm.
it just looks so good on camera if you have a visual component. Like, it's just cool. It's got a great vibe.
Yes. And again, the thing that it sounds like this is something really nice.
Right?
Because, yes, it looks great, but if I was sounding like this or something, no.
I know. I know. But this is what I'm
Hello,
talking.
Adam.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, all of our products are going to sound really good because it's in our name, sound. It's Heil Sound, and that's first and foremost important to us is how our products sound, not just how they look, but how they perform and how they consistently perform for our customers.
Absolutely. And we have Adam here. Hello, tudo bem, Adam? Muito obrigado. E tu como estás? Adam is from Anchor. He's an
Ah.
amazing guy and which has an amazing taste on blazers. Private joke. So, any, how can I say, news coming in the next times? Should we be paying attention to Heil movements? Tell us everything.
Well, we do have some products in the works, but it's way too early to talk about them. And we tend to not talk about products until it's like a done deal because so many things can go wrong when you're developing a product. This microphone took 2 years of R&D because of how we test our products. And we, like, when we make a live sound product, it will be road tested for like an entire touring season. So it will just be, sung and spit into and chucked in a bin and taken back out and, every day for months. And we send it in very unforgiving environments. And when we make, a boom arm, we send it out to podcasters and we say, do your worst to it. Tell us what it needs, what is, just ridiculous. Like, give us all your feedback. So we do a lot of real world testing with our prototypes. So it makes our process a little bit longer sometimes, but it's really important to us that we iterate our ideas. Um, I think this body went through like 3 or 4 revisions until we got just the right shape and look for this microphone. So, it's a process, but it's all a process that we work through in order to get our customers the best possible products.
Yes, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
Oh, this microphone. I think we were talking about it yesterday, and I thought about these lots of times when even when I was looking about this same kind of microphone in your competitors. This is kind of that person that has the day by day car, and then he wants to get that old fashioned car. So, for instance, it can go for a drive on Sunday,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
convertible car. And I think this is the old fashioned convertible car in the microphone world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These get used a ton in music videos too. It's just such a cool look. I think it was one of the Mission Impossible movies. Their music video for it had that microphone. That was very exciting. It's always very exciting still for us when we see our products like on the big screen or, you know, in a music video or something like that. Still, it just never gets old.
Absolutely. Well, Michelle, unfortunately, we came to the end of the conversation, but I need to ask you this. If you have to give three reasons to our viewers right now or in the future
Mhm.
to take a look at Heil Sound microphones, three reasons, which one will you give?
I would have to say that the microphones just sound great right out of the box. You don't have to do anything extra to them. There's going to be no surprises when you plug it in. It's going to sound just like this. Um, we actually tell people to turn the EQ off. If you have EQ presets that are on your mixer or in anything, turn them off so you can hear the microphone and how it truly, truly sounds. Um, and picking the right type of microphone is everything. Making sure you have a dynamic mic if you're in, an office space like I am, or a home studio, whatever your space is that you're working in. Making sure you have the right microphone for that is there's no fixing that, right? Garbage in, garbage out is what we say with audio. Like, there are certain things you just can't undo in post production, and bad audio is very hard to correct.
You tell me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. Well, where can people find you?
Heilsound.com is our website. We're on everywhere on social media at Heil Sound. Um, we love user generated content over on Instagram. We get amazing pictures. The Fin is one of our most Instagrammed
Yes.
microphones. Like, people love it. They
Hard
can't
to
get enough
believe.
of it. I know, right? Shocking. It's camera ready.
Okay, we have Adam has a question, please.
Mm,
Adam, also, maybe we will need to wait a little bit because there's this lag between
lag.
real happening at Amazon. So let's wait.
Sure.
Let's see if Adam. Da-da-da. Come on, Adam. Don't be shy. He's typing.
Yeah.
Well, but I think I'm gonna. I need to invite you again because one of the things I this whole this whole world of sound and music and artists, I think this will make an amazing conversation as well. Okay, nice question. So Adam is asking what is the equivalent for the to the SM7B or the Electro Voice RE20. Let me just I'm gonna do this because Adam uses the electric voice.
Hmm.
I use as well the SM7B, and the
Hmm.
first thing is that you don't need to spend at least around $100 with a device like this one.
Right. Right.
First thing, but the stage is yours, Michelle.
Yeah. So the PR40 is going to be the closest in terms of comparable product. Now, depending on your voice, we actually make a PR30 and a PR40. And the PR30 has that slightly less low end. So it has a little
Okay.
more of a like modern natural sound is what I like to describe it as. So depending on what you're going for, you can really go 30 or 40. The 40 to me is what the RE20 with a lot of processing and EQ
Okay. Let
sounds
me.
like to like the broadcast
I can
market.
help you. Okay.
Okay,
Let me
go
do
for it.
this. So this is how the PR30 sounds. Hello, 123. Welcome to our live show here in Amazon.
That's lovely.
And this is okay. I think. Oh, the gain here it's a little bit low. And this is how the PR40 sounds. PR40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. and I do this usually. I do this live. PR 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. This one has a, I think it's more natural.
It is. It is. It has a
Yes.
little less of that low end. And so it depends on what you're going for. Do you want that like broadcaster sound? The PR40 has that with no EQ. And if you
Yes.
want more of that natural sound, the PR30 has that with no EQ. So
No
the
EQ.
no EQ,
No EQ.
nothing. Just sounds like that in it comes straight out of the box like that. But these two microphones are, like they're at different price points, so it confuses people. And I keep begging them. I'm like, please, just make them the same price. People don't understand that one is not. It's just a manufacturing cost thing. Um,
Yes.
but they're really the same quality. The PR30 just costs less, which I guess bonus if that's how you want to sound. You get a discount if you don't
Okay.
want the broadcaster sound.
Adam Adam is saying that the PR40 doesn't have a price in the site or in the carousel. It's around $350, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is the PR40. It's
Mm-hmm.
around $350.
Yeah.
PR40, 350. This one, it's the PR30, around, let me check, 313.
Two. I think it's 269. I think that's right.
Okay, so the here it's messing with me. So it
Yeah.
is around 269 PR30. Now
Mm-hmm.
make your decision based on what you
I know.
just heard.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there you can tell the big difference between an SM7B and an RE20 is the price.
Yes, and the thing is, besides the price itself of the product,
Right.
you have
It's the
this extra.
add-ons.
Yes,
There are some add-ons with an
yes.
SM7B and usually an RE20 too. I've used an RE20 uneq'd and
Yeah, and
there needs to
I'm
be
honest.
some add-ons.
I think the RE20 sounds really well. Okay, but the
I
thing that,
it's a broadcast standard for sure and for a reason.
yes, okay, so Adam is asking me to talk directly to the 40. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Adam, this is how this microphone sounds. I can be talking about some Soundcore products so you can see,
I
or
love it.
Anchor,
Yeah.
so you can see how Anchor sounds and Soundcore or Eufy
Right. Right.
sound through this microphone.
Yeah. I will say that I'm going to have to send Marco a windscreen for his microphone because he is, how to say, animated when he speaks.
Yes, and the thing is, and this is something that for me would be hard to manage because I'm kind of a wild horse. One of the things is that I take deep breaths, and this is even more problematic when I see my recorded videos. Okay,
Yeah.
and I need to make some physical activity like unboxing and assembling things, and you can
Right.
listen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I used to be really bad about that. I've actually sort of trained myself out of it. I used to like nose breathe into the microphone, and then when I would get
yes,
nervous, it would get really really bad. But some of that is just adjusting my microphone. Some of that
yes,
is just learning to relax a little bit, and a lot of it is practice. Tons of
absolutely. And we
practice.
have someone that I think you may know him, probably,
Maybe.
Mr. Chris Stone. Hello,
Hi,
Chris.
Chris.
So good to see you here. And yes, I think this is another interesting topic for another conversation. Okay, I think I'm gonna book you for, I don't know, 10 more times, because microphone technique, it's really important as well, and it can, again, you buy a PR40 and then oh, I sound so bad because mainly maybe you're talking too close to the microphone, or because this is something that people tend to do as well, is to put theirs away 2 kilometers away from the microphone, hoping that it will
Yes.
sound good. And with a dynamic microphone, it's not a good idea.
No, no.
So
Actually,
Okay.
when people call us and they say I can't get enough gain out of my mixer or my interface for my PR40, the first question we ask is how far away from your microphone are you sitting? Because
Yes.
these are really supposed to be close talked, not supposed to
Yes.
be
And
a
the
mile
thing
away.
is, we buy dynamic microphones. One of the main reasons is to prevent those because of the noise rejection. So we
Hmm.
buy, and then what we do is like, okay, let's open the door, like putting the gain in the maximum to bring, because first
Right.
thing, the microphone has self noise, and this is something
Yes.
that we can't avoid. And the other thing is that if you are opening the doors, the noises will come as well.
It's
Ta-da!
true. It's true.
So Adam is saying that I may actually like the 30 more. Well, depends. I think
Yeah.
you can get both and then
Yeah, just buy both and then
yes.
you can just decide you don't just own one pair of shoes, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, it's otherwise we will stay talking here all
I
day.
know. We
I think
could.
you
We
have
could.
more things to do. So thank you so much, Michelle. It was and Adam is saying he has a few other microphones too. I think we
See. So you know.
we all have.
You know.
Okay, so sorry, we have another question
Okay.
by Chris. Michelle, what are some of the interfaces that are best with Heil? I was about to make this question as well
Mhm.
because it's important too.
You can really use any audio interface with our products. I would say what you're looking for is a nice, clean preamp sound, whatever product you use. I have a Zoom H6 when I travel. I have a Vocaster 2 that I'm using right now. Um, I've used pretty much everything. I have a Allen and Heath Z10 that I travel with, like when I'm doing trade shows and when I need to be able to demo microphones in a live situation. Um, Again, just you can use the most basic audio interface because you don't need any EQ or processing to use these microphones. So really anything will work. So whatever you
Okay,
have already, it's going to be fine.
Adam is asking which microphone you're using right now. It's the PR37,
It's the 37.
and
Yeah.
it's an amazing microphone as well.
Yeah.
And both of us, me and Chris, we are fans of this microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when I finally got a production model of this, well, in all fairness, before I had a production model, I would do streams and stuff and not show my microphone. Like I would just put a picture of myself up so I could use the mic before people were allowed to see it. And yeah, I love this microphone. It just sounds like me. If you were sitting across the table from me, it wouldn't sound really any different, which blew my mind when I heard this because I hadn't ever heard a microphone do that.
And the okay, just last thing. The funny thing about that microphone, and I made this exercise, is it's not a kind of video live streaming looking microphone
Right.
as, but if I close my eyes, I see it as the right podcasting microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially if you're doing an audio only podcast, you can use whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
It sounds really nice. Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Don't forget to check uh, and by the way, now you can follow Heil Sound Amazon store. Okay,
Yes.
so maybe I, let me challenge you. Let me tease you. Maybe Heil Sound soon will start Amazon live show as well.
Yes. Hopefully, very soon. Finally got the
Okay,
studio done.
that's great. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you, thank you, Michelle, for having the time to this absolutely amazing and insightful and good sounding conversation.
Well, the pleasure was all mine.
Thank you. And I will be back soon, hopefully. Enjoy the rest. Okay. And oh, Adam, being really kind, if you have any questions about streaming for the brand on Amazon, let me know. Thank you so much, Adam. And he's saying that Anchor was one of the first brands to be on Amazon Live. So if you want, I can link you with Adam.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adam, Chris, Dr. Elo, back in March 2020. Okay, this won't. Thank you so much. Now I'm really gonna stop this. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy life. Create good sounding content using, of course, Heil microphones. Bye bye.